Third will be our DP class, and we will just right click and add a new class. Name this as a DP. This will be data provider class, which will be our basic class, where we will basically do the magic, the basic magic. So how the definition of our DP class will start. First of all, make this class as a public. Then you need to just extend it. Extends, and then this will be SRS report data provider base. Report data provider base. Then also it is very important that we also decorate this class with our contract class, so that this data provider knows that there is a contract class for this to pass the parameters. SRS report parameter attribute. Okay, then class str to provide our contract class name. So that will be PKR retail, this one. Okay, so this is it. Check if there is any problem. Okay, so next stage will be to declare our global parameter. So this will be our basically temporary table, and we have missed here one thing, and it is good that now we can do the correction. That is, always end your temporary table with a TMP word, so that it is known from the name also that this is a temporary table. So just I have renamed it, and I just need to synchronize once more before I can use it in the report. If I use in report, then later on it will be difficult. So it's better at the early stage you fix this problem of any typo or any problem. Okay, so what we'll do here, basically we will give it a name. Like for example, we will give it a name like temp table. Make it a simple. It is a local scope, so no problem. Within the class only we will use this. Also we will use the list for our stores, which will be passed through contract, and then we'll need to declare our contract here. Okay, so this I will use as contract. Instance name will be contract, and make it simple but logical, so that it is easily understood during the course of your code. Here we will use from and to date to hold the values passed through the contract class. Okay, so the main method here usually in DP class is your process report method. So when you right click and insert override method, you can see here process report method is available to override. Just override it, and I will remove the documentation. If you want to use, you can use. I will remove also super, and first will be the contract instance to be instantiated, and this will be through this dot param data contract, and this will be as PKR retail. Okay, and semicolon. Then we will, because the contract is instantiated, from the contract we will get the values for these variables. Contract from date, this param method will be used as a getter, and then to date contract will be used as getter for to date. The value will be set. Then we will also assign the value for the stores. The list will be returned here. Okay, param stores, Then what we'll do, basically we will not mess up anything in this method further. We will make it as clean as possible, and then we'll create one more method in order to execute our logics. So that method we will just make it as a private, because it will be used within our class. So void nothing is returned. Void means nothing is returned. Process report data. This will be our method. We will be executing our logic. So this method will be basically calling within from the process report. So this will be process, not date, it will be data. Here we'll put as data. Okay. So now everything will write in this method, and it will be called from the process report. Okay. So there is another method which will be basically returning our temporary table. So that will be public, and our temporary table name which we have here, we will copy paste it. This will be the return type, and the name will be get tmp table. We can put like this. Okay, select tmp table and return tmp table. Okay, and decorate this one. Sorry. Okay, SSRS report data set attribute. Okay, this will be table str, and within the course you will basically put our temporary table name. So this method is very important when you use in dataset of your SSRS report. So this will let your SSRS report know that this is the table which it will be retrieved there. So this is it, and now I think skeleton is ready, and we just need to implement our logics here. So how to, this is the most important thing here, to basically populate your logic. So first of all, we need to basically make a skeleton and make the variables, and variables will be normally the tables which will be used in order to get our data. So the most important table is retail transaction table. This is the header table of retail transaction. So if I can show you that session is ended, I will just start it. Meanwhile it is starting, I will just give these table names, and then I will also use this retail transaction payment trans, which is payment trans table. I will name it as payment trans. This is the header table, which is trans table for any of the retail transaction when it happens on the point of sale. So the main header will have the main information, common information. Then it will have many childs like retail transaction payment trans, retail transaction sale trans. Payment trans will have the payment information, sale trans will have invoices information. Same will be safe drop, and there are text trans. So these are all child table related with this header table. So here we will use this payment trans, and we will only need this one variable, and then also we also need another child table, retail transaction tender declaration trans, we'll put simple names because it is used only in our local scope. So as far as those are logical, no problem. Retail transaction, tender declaration trans. Think there is some problem here. Tender declaration, retail tender declaration, some typo or something, why it is not shown in green. So better to again put it, and then we will have retail transaction safe trans. Safe tender trans. When you make a safe deposit, so when you put some money in your locker, so this will be the transaction, child transaction. Tender declaration is when you close your shift in point of sale, so this will hold the amount there. And payment trans, whenever a customer is doing a payment through credit card or through cash, it will hold the information for payments. So okay, then we will have also the tax trans. I think it will not be used, but anyhow I will declare this so that if it is used somehow. And also retail store view, which will basically has the name of a store. Otherwise I would have used retail store table. Okay, so apart from this, what else I need? Basically I will need a store ID variable, because I will be iterating from my list which is passed for multi-select. So I will put here store ID, and then I will use a list iterator, and this will be iterator. I will also initialize this, and that is also very important, what kind of the list you will be using for this. So since it will be the stores which I have already declared here, so stores list I will pass in this iterator to initialize at the same time. Okay, then I will use the temporary table definitely, which will be needed. So I will name it as a temp table. So this is my total variables which will be used. So now what I need to do is basically iterate the list which is passed through my contract. So how to do that, and where is my contract which is being retrieved? That is here in process report method. I have retrieved my contract. So contract is instance or object is initialized here. So it is already initialized, and now what I need to do is while loop I will use, and iterator, this instance has a method called more. So it will give you whether during the iteration it is having more elements in the list. So it will give you some element. So it means until there is some element, it will the loop will run. So iterator also has a value method, and which will basically give you one value out of the list. So this is stores list, so at a time it will give you one store value, store ID value basically. So this I will store in my variable which I have just above declared here. So at a time it will give me one store ID value, and then immediately before I forget, I will move it to the next element, so that every time there is a next element, it will go again. Once the whole logic is executed, it will go back to the loop. So this is how it will iterate. So within the loop, what I need to do is basically now this is the main part. So the main part, what we basically need to do, again I will go back to my format of the reports, and here you can see that we are having so many columns, and store ID, store name, transaction date, opening, cash, cards, credit cards, Visa or Master, check, gift cards, all these columns I need to populate. So it means there must be many transactions having these amounts. So means we need to consolidate it or group by it so that the total amount is shown for a date, for a specific date. For this reason, we will use the aggregate function or aggregate method. In aggregate function, like sum function is always used. First of all, I will not recommend to use any looping to go so many round trips to the database. Okay, this one loop I am using. Why? Because it is only the store selection. So means 100 or 200 stores, it will iterate 100 or 200 times. That is not as bad as later on if for each of the transaction you are basically round tripping to your database, it will hit the performance. So Microsoft always recommend to use the set based operations. So I will try to use the set based operation. There are basically three set based operation: insert record set, update record set, and delete record set. But insert record set is the only one which is using the aggregate function. So you will never use update record set for aggregate function because this is not supported. So that's why you will use the insert record set. Now the problem is because you are having multiple columns and these columns are record wise, so you cannot put all the aggregate function in one query. So basically you will be splitting each of the aggregate into different query through insert record set. Means insert record set will be the query, and each time one aggregate, for example for cash or cards or check, it will populate the temp table, but the other values will be 0. So at the end you will consolidate all the columns together. So all the columns will be together, and then you can delete the remaining one which are not having any value. So in this way we can implement our functionality. So we'll see here, instead of creating 2 or 3 temp table, it's better to use the one temporary table. So first of all, what we'll do, we will basically target the totals, this totals column. Okay, so for the totals of payment, what we need to do is use the insert record set and temp table. Okay, and then similarly like we use in insert within the SQL Server, the SQL query, we use the insert, so table and the selection of the fields. So we will use store ID here and trans date, second column, and then third will be the total. These are the 3 columns. So store ID, trans date, every time we will be inserting this, and then any of the aggregate columns, like here we are targeting this, so date and store definitely will be putting here, because this will be the basis for our consolidation at the end. Okay, so then we will select. Now this is the important part, because this trans table is having the information like trans date and store ID. So we will first use this one, select trans date, but before this select the field selection will be there, store, and then comma trans date from Okay, now after selection, group by. On the basis of store and trans date. Store and trans date. Okay, and then this is very important here, the criteria. Okay, so the criteria will be this table. Trans date. This is greater than our from date, which is passed through the contract class. So the trans date is greater than equals to our from date, and we will put an AND gate, and again trans date is less than equals to our to date. This is also passed from our contract class, and then we'll put trans date. Here we will have store selection, because each time the loop will be having one store ID value. It will be retrieved through this iterator dot value in the store ID. So we will filter this as per our current store value. Then there is one important thing is entry status field, which is basically nothing but it is telling that the transaction of retail is posted or unposted. So retail entry status is none, or we can say that entry status is posted. So this will be our overall. So now there will be, so I have put both of these OR condition within the braces or brackets. So because both either none or posted, both should be included. So then there will be a type field, and type field is basically retail transaction type, which should be sales, should not be void, because we don't want to include a void means the cancel transaction or any or cancel transaction. We are only interested in the sales transaction, which is the actual transaction. So for the return and actual transaction, it will be type will be the sales. Okay, now we will basically join this with an aggregate function of sum. So the payment trans, this table I will use, and this, as I mentioned, that it is child to this parent table. So join sum amount tender from payment trans. So then I will put the join where condition, and the condition will be transaction ID. Although there are four relations, relation based on the four fields. So but normally transaction ID will be enough. I will show you the, okay, So now this is the payment trans, which is child table to the retail transaction table. So the amount tender means whatever the amount whenever the payment has been done by the customer through card or cash or anything. So it will be in amount tender column, and we are not putting any condition here of tender type. So it means it will retrieve all the tender types. So it will become a total. So that's why it will be placed here. So I will just show you the relationship, which is very important for the programmers, and ideally it should be included. So I will also definitely include this transaction payment trans. Okay, this is the payment trans. If you go to the relations, you will go to this retail transaction table. You can see 4 fields are basically related here. So this is better to put channel, store, terminal apart from transaction ID, because sometime transaction ID might repeat if you have not properly number sequenced it. So it might repeat for 2 of the channel having the same sequence number. So always is better to put these 4 fields in a where condition: channel, store and terminal. So I will put it. It will not harm us, but for the safe side I will copy paste all, and then first is here. There is some problem. Okay, so actually temp table we have already used, so here we will use this as a local TMP table. This will be used only locally here, and once everything is done we will place it in the final table. So when there is a mistake, IntelliSense will not pop up with the options here. So always keep building your as you are programming, it's better to keep building the project. So if there are any error, it will show up right there. Store trans table here also, store payment trans terminal and trans table terminal, and there will be payment trans channel. Okay, trans table channel. Also verify store, channel, terminal, transaction. We have covered all the 4 fields on which the relationship is basically based. So this is our first chunk here, and then we'll also implement our payment methods. So before that, I will just show you how basically achieving the consolidation.